So after the previous video got over 70,000 views, which I can barely even believe, I got lots of suggestions to do this again, but with different versions. So this time we are going to be doing again only new towers, but we are going to be splitting BTD4 and BTD5 into BTD4, Bloons TD4 Expansion and Mobile, and Bloons TD5 Flash, Steam, and Mobile. And we are also going to be doing Bloons TD X, which is a fan-made game which I did not know about until someone in the comments pointed it out. I also wanted to do Bloons Adventure Time and Bloons Monkey City and Bloons Tower Defense Battles, but those don't really have a way to quote-unquote beat them. At least not in the way that I'm making these videos. And without any further delay, let's hop into BTD4 Normal, where now I can only have the following towers: Mortar, Glue, Ace, Buccaneer, Wizard, and Farm. That is still a lot of towers. We are only missing the Dartling and the Spike Factory from the previous video, which means that this is also still very easy. Starting it off with 2 wizards and trying to get as many mortar monkeys as we can, because the artillery battery is a very good tower with lots of pierce, but we are somewhat lacking in single target damage. However, since we have farms, we can just get so much money and have so many towers that we can overcome the single target damage with brute force. And I don't think there's too much left for me to say. This is a very easy game. Now moving on to expansion, which actually gets a lot more interesting. So, it was actually very difficult, and I couldn't do it without using the new towers specialty. The new towers being the Dartling and the Spike Factory, which are the 2 that I'm allowed to use in this version. And this specialty allows them to be cheaper, and their upgrades. With this specialty, we barely have enough money to afford a Spike Factory to start. Without it, you need to leak lives for 2 rounds, and then you'll be able to afford it. Our goal is to get some Dartlings and upgrade them to laser cannons, because we need the laser cannons high pierce to deal with rounds like 73 and 74. And it is also a more reliable method of popping lead balloons compared to the white hot spikes. Thankfully, both Dartlings and Spike Factories can pop camo, so we didn't have any issues there. They also specialize in single target damage, so ceramic balloons and even the Moab didn't pose too much of a threat. Like I mentioned, the biggest weakness of these 2 towers is their pierce. Rounds with lots of balloons tend to overwhelm them. On round 48, we are finally able to afford our laser cannon, and this will stabilize our defense for a while. However, we do need to get a second one as soon as we can, because as the rounds progress, they obviously get much harder and we need more pierce. As you can see, even round 51 was able to eat up a lot of the pierce from the Dartling. This game is a continuous cycle of struggling until we are able to afford another laser cannon, then being good, and then slowly starting to struggle again in a while. As you can see, despite us having 4 laser cannons and 1 Dartling, rounds like 71 can push almost to the exit. Here is round 74. 4 laser cannons are just barely enough to defend a line of ceramics, but when the BFB comes in, it messes it up a lot and we are barely able to hold on. .75 is also tough, but since there is a focus on single target damage, our Dartlings are able to pull through. And we have beaten the BTD4 expansion with only Dartlings and Spike Factories. So next up should be BTD Mobile. But I don't actually have it, so one of my viewers recorded a video of trying to beat it with only the Beekeeper, and sadly it's not possible. The first problem is that the Beekeeper cannot pop lead balloons, so that's already a major downside. And the second one is that you can only have 1 bee on a single balloon, including Moab class, which means that you cannot defeat a Moab within time before it exits. Theoretically, you could beat this with tons of life injections, but there's no point because that just defeats the entire purpose of the challenge. So, with that in mind, let's continue on to BTD5. So, first up, we are doing the Flash version, where the only two new towers are actually the Ninja Monkey and the Sniper Monkey. The Ninja is a very good early game tower, and the Sniper Monkey does allow for some farming, so obviously that was my first choice. Ninjas also pop camo balloons, and snipers can pop camo leads, so there's no issues there. The Bloon Jitsu upgrade allows the Ninja to do some very good damage, however it comes at the cost of not that much pierce. Since the Bloon Jitsu excels in single target damage, the BFB was no issue, but I did have to get another flash bomb at the end to be able to clean up the ceramics. Because of the pierce issue, rounds like 63 were very difficult because the ninjas are barely able to hold on, and without the two sabotages, I don't think we would have been able to beat this round. 76 was very difficult and took me a long time. I tried to just sell everything and buy a bunch of tier 3 snipers to one-shot the ceramics, but after that I couldn't afford enough defense to keep going, so I barely was able to hold on with a bunch of Bloon Jitsus and one sabotage. Surprisingly, an even more difficult round was 79. All the regrow rainbows were just so much, and after a BFB pops into Moabs and ceramics, they block all the pierce and allow the rainbows to regrow back. But the hardest round in this challenge was 82. I died to it many times and it took me around half an hour to finally beat it. This was because the seeking projectiles of the ninja don't prioritize the balloon that they are actually targeting, so when the ninjas are placed in the middle, they target the BFBs and allow all the regrows to regrow, and then that would just overwhelm us, so I had to sell most of my defense and put it on the right side. And even after we beat all the regrows, the very long line of BFBs was no pushover. They came quite a long way unscathed, so they almost managed to break through our defense. 83 was also difficult, but not as bad. The long line of Moabs can get very far, and you do need some proper usage of the sabotage ability in order to beat it. 84 is in the top 5 rounds, but not above 76, 79, or 82. The long line of Moabs is similar from 83, and then the long line of BFBs is similar to 82. But luckily 85 was very easy, and since there is no unpoppable mode in the Flash version, we only have to deal with one ZOMG, and the ninjas excel in single target damage, so he was taken out very quickly. And with that, we beat the Flash version of BTD5 with only the Ninja and Sniper Monkey. Now moving on to BTD5 Deluxe, or Steam version. I don't actually have the Steam version because I didn't feel like buying it just for this video, so I'm just gonna do it on the mobile version and treat it as if it were the deluxe version. The two towers that I'm allowed to use, the Engineer and the Bloon Chipper, are actually pretty weak in the mobile version compared to the deluxe version, which means that since this run was possible in the mobile version, it is definitely possible in the deluxe version. As you can see, the only buff that the Engineer has in the mobile version is more money from the balloon traps, but money was not an issue this round, so that would have been fine. It is actually quite a bit more expensive for all of the left path upgrades. The Bloon Chipper is much more similar between the two versions. The triple barrel is cheaper, but like I said, I only bought it near the end where I had enough money to buy like 50 of them. And we are not using the specialist building, so the other buff doesn't really count. So it is mostly just nerfed and being slower at taking out Moabs. So since this run was very easy, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it. We start out with an Engineer and it builds into a Sentry Gun, which is an amazing early game tower. The Cleansing Foam clears camo and leads, and then the Bloon Trap makes us so much money. After we get a few Bloon Traps, we can go for some Bloon Chippers because they are excellent at taking out Moabs, and then the traps are excellent at taking out ceramics, which makes them a perfect combo. And yeah, combining high income with a perfect combination of towers makes a run very, very easy. And yeah, BTD Deluxe is absolutely possible with only the Engineer and Bloon Chipper. And the final BTD5 version is BTD5 Mobile. Here we are able to use the Heli Pilot and the Monkey Sub. So obviously we will start with a sub because we cannot afford the Heli Pilot right away, and it is a pretty good early game tower. So we are able to get the Heli Pilot after upgrading our sub, but I accidentally upgraded it to Pursue, and that made it so I couldn't upgrade it to IFR, so I couldn't pop the camo balloon, so I had to sell the Heli Pilot and get Submergent support on the sub. And then I messed up again by rebuying the heli-pilot when I didn't have enough money to buy Razor Rotor, so I had to sell it again and get the Bloontonium reactor. Cross-pathing the Bloontonium reactor actually doesn't help the tick damage, but against less dense groups of balloons, having the airburst darts is actually more beneficial than having it submerged. After getting Razor Rotors, our defense fully stabilizes because anything lower than a zebra balloon that enters the Bloontonium reactor's range gets popped. The Moab was pretty tough because I chose a map that's not actually very long. The airburst darts from the sub did help out a lot, and the helipilot was able to barely clean up. However, the next round's long line of ceramics was too much and I had to buy another helipilot to help out. After just barely being able to beat round 49, we are able to sell one of the helipilots and buy an Apache dart ship, and now our defense is very stable for a while. And enough time has passed before the Apache starts to struggle that we have enough money to buy another one. And these two did well enough in order to be able to afford a third one. Round 84 would have been hard if it weren't for the fact that we can afford a first strike and basically nuke half of the entire wave. Round 85 was by far the hardest round. It actually needed 3 first strikes in order to beat it. 1 to kill the first UMG so that we only have to deal with 4. The second one is to clean up a little bit and pop down the remaining ones into BFBs, and then the third one to clean up the rest of the BFBs at the end. And BTD5 Mobile is possible to beat with only the sub and the helipilot. And last but certainly not least, we have BTDX. We are playing the Nightmare mode because apparently that one is the hardest, and because I already tried it on normal mode and it was very easy. I did it first try. So that's why we're doing this. So the 2 new towers in this game are the Charge Tower and the Plasma Monkey. We will start with the Plasma Monkey, which is basically just a super monkey except with plasma. And obviously not as strong. Our goal is to rush to a balloon drain because it is the only way to make extra money in this challenge. One of the hardest parts about this game is that when you pop balloons you don't immediately make the money. You need to wait until the end of the round in order to gain all the money. So, if you start a round and you're just a few dollars off being able to afford an upgrade, well, too bad, you need to beat the entire round before you can buy it. The one exception to this is the balloon drain, which allows us to directly make money during the round by draining it from the balloons. The pros of the Plasma Monkey, at least the left path, are good single target damage but very low pierce. And it also cannot hit camo balloons, so I had to leak a bunch of them. That's why after getting the balloon drain we need to rush for a middle path Charge Tower. The Charge Tower has very good pierce, so one tier 3 middle path is enough to secure all camos and support our Plasma Monkey for a while. This is why I am now rushing a second balloon drain in order to further increase our balloon income. However, after a while our Charge Tower will start to struggle, so we need to upgrade it to tier 4, which basically gives it double damage and extra pierce. The first Moab was actually very tough because in this game, the Moab does not spawn 4 ceramic balloons, but instead 4 brick balloons, which each have 30 health and spawn 2 ceramic balloons. On top of all the stuffed, camo, and other ceramic balloons in this round, this is a very tough one which we barely beat. One common thing in Nightmare mode is the balloons that are able to stun our towers. Currently, our biggest threat is ninja balloons, because they are both camo and are able to stun towers, so if it weren't for the Plasma Monkeys in the front taking up all the stuns, our Charge Towers would just get stun locked and not be able to defeat the balloons. An interesting new blimp is the HTA, which can only be damaged if the tower has enough pierce. Now, our left path Plasma Monkeys do not have enough pierce, but they can still drain money, which is actually a very good thing. By not damaging it, but still draining money, it is essentially just free income. The first BFB, despite spawning Moabs which spawn brick balloons, was no issue because we have so many Plasma Monkeys and a few Charge Towers, so it gets easily destroyed. But what comes later in the round is actually a bigger threat. Patrol balloons will just sweep the entire screen and start stunning our towers, while the rocket blimp, which is basically the fastest blimp while having not too much health, will try to zip on by while the towers are stunned. It wasn't too much of an issue this round because we dealt with a lot of the patrol balloons and the rocket blimp came out much later, but later this will be an issue. Since Plasma Monkeys have great single target damage and only one pierce, they are excellent at dealing with shields and even super shields. Our defense is holding up, but is definitely showing some signs of weakness, so I got our first tier 5, the Lightning Bomb. Our first Gravity Bomb, which is the middle path tier 5, was able to make short work of the Mega BRC. The Ninja Balloons are causing even more problems, which is why I started to buy some charge towers, which I will leave unupgraded just to act as bait for the Ninja Balloons to attack instead of the actual towers that deal damage. Since the Gravity Bomb has AoE, I decided to upgrade the second one too. The first ZOMG was no issue, the Plasma Monkeys took down the first layer and the charge towers destroyed the insides. The rounds are starting to get pretty tough, so I decided to work on the Secret Path charge tower. This one, although expensive, is the strongest path of the charge tower, and it allows for insane damage and insane pierce. And here is a demonstration of how powerful the mega charges are. The first deadly DDT actually pushed very far because I only had 3 charge towers which were able to pop camo. I actually had to use the Lightning Bomb ability for the first time in order to beat it, and even still we barely made it. In order to secure my camo defense, I decided to get one right path Plasma Monkey. After buying Red Shift, I started buying more charge towers to act as bait for all the patrol balloons in order to make sure that the center, the strongest towers, did not get stunned. Round 58 was very difficult, and it is what killed many runs in the past. It starts out with a long line of PHTAs in order to whittle down our defense and leave us wide open. Then it sends out a huge horde of patrol balloons and rocket blimps in order to just speed past our defense. Luckily I used the Red Shift ability, which killed most of the patrol balloons and dealt very good damage to all the HTAs. And with all of the charge towers taking up the damage, the middle section can deal enough damage to kill everything. The Red Shift ability also makes very quick work of the deadly DDTs. After round 59, I decided to sell all of my money-making towers because I didn't really have a point in them. And I decided to buy one Secret Path Plasma Monkey. With the remaining cash, I also got one more Middle Path Plasma Monkey and a few charge towers just in case any stun balloons show up. The Party Blimp is basically the bad of this version, but it doesn't have as much health, although it does move quite a bit faster. However, our towers are able to completely overpower it and destroy it around the first bend. The remaining super shielded BFBs and Storm Lightning powered Zeppelins were nothing in comparison. And with that, we officially beat Nightmare Mode with only the Charge Tower and the Plasma Monkey. This one was by far the most interesting, probably because it was just brand new and nothing I experienced before. But the amount of different balloons that there are is just insane. It took a lot of creativity to come up with all of this. And with that, we have concluded that all games except for BTD4 Mobile are possible with only new towers. This includes BTD4, BTD4 Expansion, BTD5 Flash, BTD5 Deluxe, BTD5 Mobile, and BTDX. Stay tuned for next time because I'm making another BTD challenge, which I think is even more interesting than this one. And with that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye!